Hello, folks. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for joining me. I am here live at 11 a.m. Eastern. And by the way, this is an exception. From here on out, I'm going to try and stick very closely to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. Today is the exception, but and the Friday ones will be for members only at leecamp.net. But I have a great show for you today. Huge show, massive show. Doesn't get any bigger than this, except for that one time where all those singers got together and sang "We Are the World." And I'm sure they wish Michael Jackson probably wasn't on that one nowadays. But you know how times change. But thank you guys for being here. I have a bunch of stories to cover with you, but I also have a special guest. I played his clip last week of him shredding the Summit of the Americas. You know, all those adjectives that they have to use in order to get clicks on videos. He shredded Luis Almagro. He destroyed him. He tarred and feathered. They don't use tarred and feathered enough. But it was like 3 straight minutes because the fucking security wouldn't get in there and yank his ass out soon enough. And so he just kept going, and it was brilliant. And I have him here right now from the Socialist Program, but many other things as well. Here's Walter Smollett.
Hey, Lee, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Glad to see you're not in prison.
Yeah, thanks. No, wasn't arrested. Just handcuffed briefly, but I can no longer go back to the Arizona State University California Center. That's
which I'm sure is very upsetting. That was actually where you used to hang out all the time, wasn't it? So I went into a little bit last week, but you know, I want to set the stage again and explain to people if you would, and you'll do a better job than I'm sure I did. But what Biden's Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles was supposed to represent, and what Luis Almagro, head of OAS, was doing there, and then we'll get into exactly what you said about him. But I guess if you want to set up what it was you were at the event.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it was an event about press freedom and media integrity, and yeah, like you said, it was attached to the Summit of the Americas. Bill Clinton started this tradition back in 1994, I believe. Every several years, usually every 4 years, the U.S. empire convenes all of the other countries of the Americas and essentially uses it as a platform.
Our backyard that we think we own, right?
Exactly. And basically uses it as an opportunity to just, issue orders to everybody else in the hemisphere. But I think this summit was a huge embarrassment for the Biden administration because they tried to exclude Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. I mean, they did exclude them, right? They didn't extend invitations to those countries. But a lot of other nations in Latin America were like, no, like we do not accept this. The United States doesn't get to decide who's in the Americas and who isn't. So Lopez Obrador, the president of Mexico, sort of kicked it off. He said, look, if these 3 countries aren't going, then I'm not coming either. Several other heads of state boycotted. Bolivia, a lot of the countries of the Caribbean community also spoke out against that decision. So essentially, Honduras too didn't go. Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, very important for the Biden administration when it comes to immigration. Their heads of state were like, we're not going either. So really, it just ended up highlighting how totally weak the U.S. empire has become in Latin America.
Yeah, and I saw Abby Martin. I know she was there as well, and she was saying that it also wasn't well attended by the audience either. There was like 30 people listening to Secretary of State Blinken speak his garbage propaganda, right?
Yeah. The whole thing was like, there were probably single digit, like legitimate attendees, right? Everybody else there was either like basically everybody else there was a journalist. So yeah, it was totally pathetic. We got there a little bit early, and initially, I was thinking, well, maybe I should duck into one of these workshops. That'll be not suspicious, but there were like maybe 3 or 4 people in each one of these workshops that they had set up.
Oh, I mean,
it was like really, really embarrassing for them. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing was just such a fiasco for them.
Okay, so then the head of OAS, which is this organization that seems to not do much other than help the U.S. create coups in Latin America. Luis Almagro is speaking or being interviewed up there. And as I played in the clip last week, you called him a killer. You said there's blood on your hands. Can you get now that you have a little more time without thinking someone's going to tackle you at any moment? Can you explain to people that may not have been following, the coup in Bolivia and everything else, what the details around that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, towards the end of 2019, the government of Bolivia was overthrown in a coup. It was kind of a joint effort between like fascist paramilitary gangs plus the police and armed forces of the country, or at least elements of the police and armed forces of the country. Bolivia since 2005, when Evo Morales was elected, has gone a way that the United States does not like. Evo Morales' party is called the Movement Towards Socialism. They've taken control of a lot of the country's natural resources, especially the country's gas and mineral wealth, which Bolivia has a lot of. And they've used that, instead of shipping all of that wealth to Wall Street, they've used that money to improve people's lives. They've built schools, healthcare programs, improved infrastructure, and they've also declared something that they call a plurinational state. So the majority of Bolivia's population is indigenous, but they're extremely oppressed and kept out of government historically. And so Evo Morales was the first indigenous president. And one of the things they did when they implemented a new constitution was that, they gave equal standing to indigenous peoples, right? Bolivia is a plurinational, multi-ethnic country officially.
God forbid the people the colonialists destroyed get a say.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the people who were the opposite, right? The people who are effectively the colonizers of the country. They were the ones who are behind the coup, right? The old Bolivian elite who are used to basically managing everything on behalf of Washington. Some of these guys are actually Nazis. I mean, like Heil Hitler salute doing like Nazis. Others are like religious fundamentalist fanatics, like Janine Áñez, who was just sentenced to prison, but she was the president who took power in the coup regime. She would fly planes over Bolivian cities and sprinkle holy water out of them, and that was her fight to fight COVID. It's just unbelievable.
It would be funny if it didn't involve so many people dying. But
yeah. So yeah, that's basically what type of government Bolivia had, and the people who overthrew it.
Yeah, and then the people stood up and actually undid the U.S.-backed coup, which was pretty incredible. So I don't know how long into his speech or his talk you waited, but you stood up and you started calling him out, and it was tough to hear. Was there any kind of response from him or his people?
He was saying, you're misinformed. He would kind of, it did go on for a long time, longer than he or I expected.
I think partially because it was so poorly attended, they had like almost no security or anything. So you do this in the Senate or the House or something, you're tackled in, you got about 10 seconds maybe. And this, you had 3 minutes. And luckily you're so fucking informed that you were like, I got 3 minutes of shit, bring it. But you did great of continuing to keep going even when you thought it would be over,
Thank you. Yeah, it must be like the worst police officers on the planet were there. But another thing though, it because it was an event on media freedom, and he was there to announce some like stupid media integrity center. I think they figured, okay, well, if we drag a journalist out of our session on press freedom, that might look bad. So I think that was part of it.
But they did it anyway.
But they eventually they were like, okay, we actually are going to do
that. So they dragged you out and was there an initial like restraining to? They must have done something in order to tell you can't come back or whatever.
Yeah. They handcuffed me, and I was just sort of standing looking at the wall in front of the building for a while, and then somebody who worked at the university came out and said, you can never come back here. That is essentially
Hi, nice to meet you. Never come back. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh, I know you're a longtime organizer, but did there's a lot of people out there that look at what you did, and they have also considered doing something similar when they're faced with these criminals, people that I highly suspect are sociopaths and have no concern for their victims. Um, what went into your decision? Like, was it a tough one, or was it just kind of like, yeah, this is what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was, important to confront him. And I should note that, in addition to what, after I did that with Almagro, Eugene Perrier and Abby Martin were both at that same event, and Anthony Blinken came up next, and then they questioned him about Haiti and about the assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh. And so yeah, I mean, we were actually all in town, all three of us,
Yep.
because we were attending an event called the People's Summit for Democracy. So this is sort of like the official counter summit to the Summit of the Americas. We brought together different people's movements, people representing struggles from all across the Americas. Some of the leaders of the excluded countries, the president of Cuba and the president of Venezuela, taped messages and sent it to the People's Summit for Democracy. So we were there because yeah, we thought it was important to have multiple counterpoints to the Summit of the Americas, as frequently happens, right? Whether it's like the OAS summit, or it's the G7 or G20 or the COP climate conferences. It's always important, I think, when there's these gatherings, these like very exclusive elite gatherings of the powerful, for the people to also gather and have something to counter it.
I'll wrap it up here in a minute, but and by the way, everyone needs to check out the Socialist Program, where you and Brian Becker and everyone do great work. But I want to get your thoughts on Latin America outside of just OAS and Almagro. I'm suspecting that the U.S. is there's probably some kind of backroom talks about how to bring down AMLO, now that he has talked about nationalizing lithium and putting together kind of an OPEC of lithium. Also, not showing up to this summit was probably another strike. I'm wondering if you agree with that, and what your thoughts are on maybe the most pressing issues in Latin America right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of efforts going on about towards developing mechanisms for regional cooperation that excludes the U.S. And Canada too, I guess, but mainly the U.S. So yeah, I mean, there's talks about economic alliances around particular resources. Lithium, of course, super important for modern technology. There's the Union of South American Nations. That's another really important regional mechanism. There's an organization called CELAC, which is basically the OAS minus the US and Canada. It's the Community of Latin American and Caribbean Countries. So yeah, I mean, more and more people are getting together and saying, okay, we actually don't need Washington and Wall Street supervision to make decisions about the region that we live in. And I think that's a really exciting and positive development.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal to have some of these countries pushing back against American hegemony. Also, for a moment, Pakistan, until we soft coup them, and India and some others. So, do you feel like this is a trend globally?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I mean, that's why the United States is spending over $800 billion. I mean, well, it's actually a lot more than that. Officially, over $800 billion on weapons and war every single year, because I think they feel that supremacy slipping. It's definitely not gone, right? I mean, they definitely are still, the empire, the dominant power. But yeah, I think the trend lines are clear. They're on their way down. And they're becoming more and more and more dangerous as they go down, and bringing the rest of us, I mean, like normal people who live in the United States, down with them by just directing all of the wealth and resources of this society towards guns and planes and ships to, make their empire stronger, and to make Boeing and Lockheed Martin and all the rest rich.
Well, Walter, I can't thank you enough, and I think everyone, and I've seen it a lot in the comment section, appreciate you taking the moment in that room to stand up and call these people to account in their face. So thank you so much. And is there anywhere else people should follow your work other than just the Socialist Program?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me. You can also check out my work at liberationnews.org.
Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Later, Walter. All right, there he is. The man, the myth, the legend. The man who stood up in the face of one of Empire's puppets. And speaking of that, I have another story about that, which I'll get to right now. Although I'll after that, I will get to the story that is the title of this video about the U.S., or at least one of the U.S. mouthpieces, admitting to secret assassinations that they are not telling us about. I'll get to that in a second, but you're going to love this. Juan Guaido, the pretend president of Venezuela, the fucking Georgetown douchebag prep boy shithead that the U.S. pointed to and said, yeah, he's the president of Venezuela. No one had ever voted for him for president of Venezuela. That's the guy. He's president of Venezuela. We just said so right now. He's just right now. Just right now, he's president of Venezuela. It honestly, it's like, it feels like when you showed up at a friend's house and they were like, hey man, we're playing the floor is lava and you're gonna die. And you're like, nope, I didn't have a vote in that. I'm not playing the floor is lava. Why am I part of your fucking shithead fantasy? That's what Juan Guaido feels like. It's like the U.S. being like, he's president of Venezuela. And everybody being like, well, I didn't. Who told you that? Who said that is happening at all? So, but it keeps getting better on the Juan Guaido sad path. Here's Juan Guaido the other day having his shirt ripped off by some folks in Venezuela. Former Deputy Guaido, followed by the violence he sowed, is the title of the article. And here he is getting basically attacked. And I do not support violence unless you're ripping off the shirt of Juan Guaido, because that's pretty fucking funny. Former Deputy Juan Guaido, watch, YouTube will ban this video for bullying. I hurt Juan Guaido's feelings. Former Deputy Juan Guaido. And the reason they're calling that is because he was never the president of Venezuela. So this article is accurately not calling him former president of Venezuela or attempted president of Venezuela or disputed president of Venezuela. No, he's none of those things. He's not and never has been the president of Venezuela. So they're saying former deputy, which is what he was, a deputy of the National Assembly. Former Deputy Juan Guaido in the Venezuelan opposition. So that means the opposition to Maduro, and Maduro is part of the Chavista movement. You need to know that to understand this paragraph. The Chavista movement under Hugo Chavez, right? Hugo Chavez now dead. Maduro was his follower, was the one who came after him, and protege in many ways. And so it's the Chavista party is in control of Venezuela. And by the way, their elections far more legit than ours on stupid black box, broken speak and spell pieces of shit machines. They have a legit election compared to ours. Anyway, so that's the Chavista movement. So former Deputy Juan Guaido and Venezuelan opposition experienced another embarrassing incident of violence this Saturday, June 11th, carried out by their own anti-Chavista followers. So the people attacking him and ripping off his shirt are other anti-Chavistas. This is the opposition party in Venezuela. And the reason they hate him, well, let me finish the paragraph, who confronted him, pushed him through chairs, and insulted him. Oh, I'm sure that I wish I knew some of those insults. I'm sure that must have been a wicked roast. There's one guy, it's got to be easy to roast. It's this Banana Republic piece of shit. And I meant the store, not the Republic. Insulted him at the Moringa restaurant in San Carlos. He was at that restaurant to have lunch after completing his visit to the city as part of a tour of Venezuela. He's touring the country that he does not fucking run, that he's not the president of. Why does he have time to tour a country and just sit at restaurants and all that shit? Because he's not governing a goddamn country. He hasn't done a shit bit of governing. Guaido still, and by the way, the U.S. still also pretends he's president. It's not just Guaido. Guaido still pretends to be president in his make-believe world with the U.S., Canada, and Europe. It's yet to be seen whether European politicians who claim to recognize Juan Guaido will release a statement in condemnation of this treatment of a sitting head of state, quote unquote. And they put that in quotes as a joke. He's not a fucking sitting head of state. He's just a tool of American hegemony. Literally. And doesn't this tell you something about the quote unquote freedom in Venezuela? They have more than they have here, right? Than we have here in America, because Juan Guaido has attempted no less than 4 coups against Venezuela. He's declared himself president. This would be like fucking Mitch McConnell going out one day at a podium and going, "Hey, everybody, listen up. Listen up, everybody. I'm president now. Just decided I'm president. I know you didn't vote for me because I never ran for president, but I'm president, and your votes, you voted for me in your head. In your head, I feel like you did. And so, yeah, I'm president now. And so it'd be like that. And then Mitch McConnell proceeds to call on the military to capture or kill the president, whether it be Trump, Biden, whoever. Mitch McConnell runs around saying, "I'm the president, military, come attack the White House," calls on other countries to invade. Hey, come on, Russia, Canada, Mexico, come invade the U.S. and help us. Help us do this. This would be like Mitch McConnell. And by the way, if Mitch McConnell did this, I probably have more respect for him than I do now. But anyway, Mitch McConnell doing that, saying, "Come on, everybody, invade our country, bomb our country." And could you imagine if that shit went down, that the U.S. then allow him to keep touring the country, calling himself president, By the way, Juan Guaido has also, his signature has been found on the contract for the coup attempt that was called the Bay of Piglets under Trump, when the fucking 60 people from Colombia took their little ski boats with guns and masks into Venezuela in order to kill Maduro, and they were captured by fishermen. And Juan Guaido signed the contract for those assassins. We have the paperwork. And yet he still wandered around Venezuela saying he's president. Could you imagine that? Could you fucking imagine Mitch McConnell just stumbling around Poughkeepsie, being like, "Yeah, I'm still president, and I called on the military to try and kill our president, but the guy who's in the presidential office, who's in the Oval Office, I don't know why he's there because I'm the president, but I called on our military to do that, and yeah, I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm just keep running around giving speeches. That's fine. It's nobody seems to care. Nobody's arresting me." Could you imagine the U.S. ever leaving that guy free to run around doing this shit? Of course not. The U.S. would have him in a black site in a fucking 10 minutes. Black site immediately. There'd be a button they'd push. He'd be black sighted. So just one more note a couple more notes on this. As Telesur journalist Madeline Garcia reported through her Twitter account, according to her post, it was not Chavistas who were outraged when they saw Guaido. It was the opposition people themselves. Guaido, who declared himself interim president of Venezuela in February 2019, has participated in several coup attempts since 2019, even signed a mercenary contract to kidnap or kill Maduro. A parliamentary commission of National Assembly has accused him of multiple crimes against the state, including promotion of sanctions and foreign invasions and stealing Venezuelan assets abroad. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that one. He's the beneficiary. Guaido, the U.S. fake president of Venezuela is the beneficiary of billions of dollars stolen from Venezuela. Because basically the U.S. declared, hey, this guy's the head president of Venezuela, and now he gets all of Venezuela's money that we can put our hands on. So they've just given him millions, billions. I know they've repossessed billions of dollars. They've given him millions at least. But yeah, still going. The U.S. still calling him president. By the way, don't forget this. And I know I said by the way too much. I have to find some other expression to mix it up a little. By the also, in adjacent to, etc. As extension, keep in mind that during Trump's State of the Union, the one and only moment that Nancy Pelosi, remember she's on the stage with Trump because she sits behind him, Speaker of the House, sits behind him, the only time that she got up off her antiquated ass and applauded Donald Trump. Big old applause. She and Donald Trump, buddy, applauding, standing together in unison, united as one. The only time was when Trump said President of Venezuela, Juan Guaido, is in the audience. That was the moment. That was the moment your two bullshit, flying crap, piece of dumpster fire parties stood up together and applauded. The whole place applauded. Yay for fake President Guaido. And if you have anybody in the House and the Senate that you believe in, that you think is a legit person, because I know, so there's people out there that are like, oh, the squad or whatever. And I don't know the answer for every one of them. But if you have any of them that you believe in, that you believe is doing good shit, is actually standing up for what's right, is actually standing up for honesty, is actually standing up against American hegemony, which is what you should want. If there is a single person in the Congress that you believe that of, or a governor or whatever the fuck, find out where they stand on Juan Guaido. Because if they are saying that the U.S. is going to put that puppet in and create a coup and kill who knows how many people, then they are not honest. They are not anti-hegemony. They're not anti-imperialist. They're not anti-death. They're not for people. They're not for average citizens. They're not for democracy. That list is done if you find out where they stand on that one issue. So check it out and decide for yourself. All right, let's get to another story here. And this is the story that I named the video after. U.S. admitted to secret assassinations. And after this story, we'll be going over to justrumble.com/Lee Camp. But let's get into this. This is from the New York Times, and that's why I say they're admitting to it. If it gets into the New York Times, which is a propaganda outlet for the United States, the New York Times is like the fucking hype men behind a rapper. That's what they are. That's what the New York Times is. They are the hype men behind the rapper, and in this case, the rapper is the fucking Oval Office, the U.S. State Department. The New York Times is the guys in the background going, yeah, best ever, never said a word wrong. They just repeat the line that the rapper said. So the rapper goes, I'm rich as fuck. And then they're back there going, rich as fuck, right? They just repeat that line. The New York Times just repeats the line coming out of the State Department. The State Department says, we got to bomb, we got to fund Nazis on the border of Russia for peace. And then the New York Times goes, fund Nazis for peace. So they are the fucking hype men. So when you see something in the New York Times, almost without exception, there's a rare exception when it's an opinion piece, maybe, but almost without exception, it is the U.S. Stance, or it is an admission of something the U.S. did wrong, but it's so long ago, it's so long after the fact that it no longer is of consequence to U.S. hegemony, to the U.S. State Department. It means it's been allowed to be revealed. So, like, for example, when they finally revealed the truth about weapons of mass destruction, when they finally revealed the truth about U.S. torturing some folks, when they finally revealed the truth about fucking dragging people into cells and hooking car batteries up to their balls, all that awful shit. When they finally revealed that truth, they waited, 10, 15 years after the fact to go, oh yeah, like the Afghanistan papers in the Washington Post, and then after it was covered in the Washington Post, it was covered by the New York Times. Like the Afghanistan papers. The Afghanistan papers revealed we were funding all kinds of shit in Afghanistan, funding the Taliban, millions of dollars going to ghost schools, fake schools that don't exist, millions and billions of dollars going to whole platoons of Afghan soldiers that don't exist. Just huge, massive amounts of waste and $1 trillion going missing essentially over the past many years. All of that was in the Afghanistan papers in the Washington Post. But it was long after, when the war in Afghanistan, when it was first being debated in those pivotal first couple of years. Long after. Well, that's what the New York Times does. If they admit something, it's long after it could be useful to people. So here we are. America kills its enemies in our name and then keeps it a secret. And this is written by a former Marine. And I'm going to show you not only, as we go through this, I'm going to show you not only how this is an admission of the U.S. state that this is happening. You can believe that this is reliable in that way, but it also is propaganda. It's what's called a limited hangout. A limited hangout, for those of you who don't know, is when the U.S. deep state or military reveals some of what they're doing wrong, some of their criminal ass behavior. They reveal a little bit so that you don't ask the deeper questions. And so that's what this is, revealing a little bit so that you and I don't ask the deeper questions. And I'm going to get into what those deeper questions are as well, what the New York Times is not telling you intentionally. And it got the name Limited Hangout because Nixon said, let's not do a full let's not let it all hang out. He said, let's let it, this is on leaked tapes. He said, let's do a limited hangout. So I assume the term let it all hang out has to do with cock and balls. And so he said, let's do a limited hangout, which I guess is just like the ball portion of the situation, the ball portion of the junk. So this is like a limited hangout is, just the balls, just the taint, whatever the fuck. Anyway, New York Times. Hold on. Let me go back to full screen. Death came, and I love how they start so eloquently. Death came via teddy bear. What? Specifically, a 6-foot tall plush teddy bear, special ordered in 2017 by a Colombian gang leader known as Inglaterra. It was for his kid or something. And then the U.S. blows up the teddy bear, killing the gang leader. Then he continues, I thought about this story. By the way, for those of you watching this and not listening to the podcast, how do you like the fucking highlighting? The highlighting is happening. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I talked about, it took me 2 years to realize there's a way to highlight articles online. I did it. I found it out. I'm a fucking genius. It's like finding out there's a way to tie your shoes. What? All this time I've just been tucking the shoelaces into the side of the shoes and down in there. And then I thought that would hold it. So to continue from the article, I thought of that story again a month ago. First, when it was reported the United States was helping Ukraine kill Russian generals. That's right. The U.S. is helping Ukraine, which is at least a portion of that military Nazi run. We are helping Nazis kill Russian generals in a U.S. proxy war. It's a proxy war. I've said it again and again and again. I said it from day one. I'm opposed to the U.S. invasion, but I'm also opposed to U.S. proxy wars. I can't say it loud enough. How loud do I have to get for people to hear this shit and actually realize, they're like, you're not opposed to the Russian invasion? No, I've said all of this from day one. So we're helping Nazis kill Russian generals. And then the author says, again, when the Times reported that the troops President Biden has ordered back into Somalia would help maintain an assassination program targeting a small cadre of Somali leaders. Ha! That's interesting. Why would the U.S. stop and think about this? Why would the U.S. want to assassinate people in Somalia? I wonder what's going on in Somalia that the U.S. would want to assassinate, because there's a lot of countries and we're not assassinating people in every country. So why are we killing people now in Somalia? Well, I'll get to more on that in a minute. One of the many strange things about being an American citizen these days is that there's a whole lot of killing done in our name that our government deliberately keeps secret. This is the fucking New York Times. Friends of mine back in Iraq or Afghanistan used to respond to people asking the inappropriate question veterans always get, did you kill anyone? With the sharp-elbowed response, quote, if I did, you paid me to do it. A rough reminder of the link between the military and the citizens they represent. Yeah. You fucking killed people that the U.S. told you to, and the U.S. is murdering innocent people around the world because we are a criminal gang. And I'd love for more people in the military to understand that and to think about that, because it's honestly really sad when they come back and they start to realize it then. When they get back here and it starts to register what the fuck this whole thing was about. If you want to hear the best example of this, go listen to my podcast, Government Secrets. Click on the episode about Smedley Butler, the most awarded, most honored Marine that's ever lived. And he figured out once he got home how fucked up American wars are, how much we kill overseas in order to protect resources, steal resources, put in governments that help our businesses and all that shit. Anyway, go listen to that episode of Government Secrets. In the spring of 2004, the Joint Special Operations Command was conducting about 6 operations a month in Iraq. By the spring of 2006, it was doing 300 a month. 300 targeted killings by a special ops group a month. We are a criminal gang. How fucking, like, how much clearer does it have to be that this is a criminal gang? If someone walked up to you and was like, hey, I know this guy. He has a business where he like goes around killing some folks. You know, it's a business on the up and up. You know, he's in the phone book and his business cards and such, and he just takes out people that, you know, we don't like. Someone doesn't like that much. So he's a good guy. Would you finish hearing that and go, that sounds like a good guy? That sounds like, all right. I want to be part of that business. Maybe I'll invest in that business. Does he have a stock? Can I invest in that? Or would you go, that sounds like a criminal. That sounds like a gang member. That sounds like a fucking awful human being who is doing awful things. If it's the second one, then that should be how you view the American empire right now. Like right now. Rehauling the whole process of finding targets, fixing them in place, finishing them, exploiting and analyzing the intelligence collected, and then disseminating that intelligence to the agencies and commands able to most rapidly act on it. He's saying our government did that. And a lot of this is because he's a former Marine and because he clearly, this article is him not liking that we have these assassination programs, but still liking American empire, still thinking American empire is doing the right thing, but he just doesn't like the assassination part of it. And that's what I mean by limited hangout. He's revealing that the U.S. assassination program is wrong, but he's saying at the end of the day, still good guys. That's his view. And because of that, and because he's a Marine, they use terminology, technical terminology to make this sound less criminal, to make the system as a whole sound less fucked up, sound less revolting and disgusting, when it's put in these, highfalutin, technological, whatever words, linguistics of a military operations command. I mean, just listen to this sentence. Rehauling, I'll rephrase each part of it. Rehauling the process of finding targets. So changing who we're killing. That's what he should have said. Fixing them in place. Finding out where they at so we can fucking chop their head off. That's what that part is. Finishing them. And we all know what that's a euphemism for. Fucking killing the motherfuckers. Exploiting and analyzing the intelligence collected. Looking in their pocketbook after you fucking stick a knife in their back. Going through their laptop and checking out what porn they're looking at. With Osama bin Laden, they literally did that. They're like, he had porn on his laptop. Oh my goodness. Bin Laden had porn on his laptop. And then disseminating that intelligence. And then giving the info we get by murdering the motherfucker to the agencies and commands able to most rapidly act on it. To the offices responsible for calling for this shit. Finding out what's in his pocketbook, what's in his pants pockets, and getting it to the guy who told us to whack him. I mean, this is the exact same shit the mafia does, except the mafia would not talk about it like this. They would say, hey, do me a favor, whack that guy, and then if he's got any coins in his pocket, you bring those back to me, all right? Because, I use 50, 75 cents. See if he's got any coins in there. See if he's got any photos of my wife in his fucking pockets. After you kill him. Don't ask him before you kill. Just kill, fucking whack him, and then check his pockets. If there's a photo of my wife, whack him again. Fucking do it again. So then to continue from the article, when Americans think about the killing we do overseas, we often think about the mechanism. Well, because we're told to, right? We're told to think about the mechanism of the killing because our state media doesn't want us to think about the reality of it. They don't want to show us the dead bodies and the blown up buildings, right, of our wars. They don't want to show us the reality of it. So they talk about the mechanism. To continue from the article, a drone delivering a bomb strikes us as a bit creepy. A member of the Navy SEALs bursting into a bad guy's compound strikes us as heroic, right? The drone bombing the shit out of someone sounds more creepy to the average person than a special op going in and taking them out like James Bond, right? Like Jason Bourne jumping through the window, feet first. Always jumping through windows. Didn't think to check the door. Just go straight in the window. That's my favorite when there's like a fight in a James Bond, Jason Bourne movie and they're getting chased and they just dive through a window and somersault and then keep going, keep running. The dive through the window didn't cut them at all. It just, don't try that at home. If your wife is mad at you, don't try just diving out the window. I guarantee you know what happened is your fucking head would go through the window. Then the window obviously would smash enough to let your head through, but the rest of your body would get stopped, and then it would just jagged shards into your throat, and you just bleed out down the side of the window. And then your wife would be like, I just thought we were having an argument. Why did he have to off himself through the window like that? So don't try it. Don't try it at home, folks. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well. The dive through the window. When Americans think about the kill, John, heroic. The SEALs and the drone are just tools, this Marine says, former Marine. The flathead or the Phillips head screwdriver at the end of the targeting system. Right? That's how it sounds. He's making it sound nice. These are just the tools, all right? It's just when you send one of us in to fucking shoot a guy through his fucking head, or more accurately, more often, drone bomb his town and kill his entire wedding party. When you send us to do that, we're just a tool. We're just the tip of the spear, all right? We're just It's not up to us, right? That's the Nuremberg defense. Just following orders. You told me to kill a fucking village. You told me to drone bomb a wedding party, and here I did it. And the initial parts of the system can be offered to other countries like Ukraine, which do the killing themselves. The initial parts of the system, meaning the intelligence of, hey, here's where a Russian general will be, and here's the drone. You can fly fucking into him. Go ahead. In a press briefing on May 5th, the Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby distanced the United States only slightly from the killing of Russian generals, said, quote, "We do not provide intelligence on the location of senior military leaders on the battlefield or participate in the targeting decisions of the Ukrainian military," he said. But he freely admitted we provide Ukraine with relative intelligence. I don't even see the difference between those two things. We don't tell them where the generals are so they can kill the generals, but we do give them intelligence on where the generals are so they can kill the generals. I don't understand the difference between those two things, honestly. Let's see how much more of this there is. When Americans think about killing we do overseas, we often think about the mechanism. Oh, I already did that part. Starting in 2007, we helped kill dozens of guerrilla commanders in Colombia's long-running civil war. This is the fucking New York Times admitting that the U.S. is helping Colombia assassinate rebels, FARC rebels, and Colombia is a fucking brutal narco state. You know where something like, it's somewhere between like 80 and 90% of all environmentalists that are killed every year, and we're talking hundreds. Environmentalists, meaning people just saying to a community, hey, we got to stop the oil from ruining our woods and our land. We got to stop these fucking people from knocking down the woods. Those environmentalists, you know where it's fucking, it's something like 89% are killed every year? Colombia. And it's with the approval of that fucking government, Duterte. And the U.S. loves them. We love it for them. We love them for it. We're like, oh, you killed some environmentalists? Cool. They kill Afro-Indigenous all the time, and the U.S. is supporting it. We're helping them assassinate folks. And this is the New York Times admitting this. In one instance, the FBI and the Drug Enforcement Administration helped trace a satellite phone call between Hugo Chavez. Yeah, helped chase. I think the truth. Help trace. The truth is they probably had everything Chavez ever did bugged. So they're pretending we got a lock on a satellite phone. They had all his shit bugged, I'm sure. This intelligence was checked against information from a Colombian informant. The leader was located in a camp inside Ecuador. U.S. national security lawyers ruled the strike permissible as an act of self-defense. Oh, God. Self-defense. Oh, look. In all reality, though, I agree with that. I was sitting at home and I was like, dude, these FARC rebels that are talking to Hugo Chavez, I feel a little insecure. I feel a little scared here. Sitting in my living room in Sioux Falls, my suburban neighborhood, and with my kid and my dog. And I'm a little worried that they might, FARC rebel in Colombia that's talking to Hugo Chavez, he might show up at my door and Lord knows what he's going to do there. I don't know what the FARC rebel will do. What he'll do, honestly, to my family, me and my gay husband, and my kid and my dog. I figured, why not make him gay? We need to become more accepting of that as a stereotype of the traditional American family, rather than acting like everybody's just man and wife, right? This family happens to be 2 men, kid and a dog, okay? And they're scared, so the U.S. lawyers said it's self-defense for us to assassinate a rebel in Colombia. But get this, though. Colombians flew 3 light attack aircraft loaded with those smart bombs that the U.S. gave them. followed by 5 planes loaded with conventional bombs. The bomb's guidance system was turned on once they closed in on the target, and Colombians dropped the first smart bombs to kill the target that they were assassinating with U.S. help. And then the conventional bombs were dropped afterwards to cover their tracks. That's what the article says. That's the New York Times admitting that. The decision to provide U.S. support made and justified by officials and lawyers whose names we still don't know. In a complex conflict, most Americans have no idea the U.S. has been heavily involved in set off diplomatic crisis between Ecuador, Venezuela, and Colombia. And the U.S. doesn't give a shit. We don't give a shit as we fuck up these countries. The aid to Colombia didn't stop once the official war did. After the rebels signed a peace treaty in 2016, U.S. foreign aid continued to grow and is now approaching $500 million a year. Dude, we had them drop conventional bombs after they dropped the smart bombs to cover it up. Is that not the mafia? The mafia whacks a dude, then they dump him in the lake to cover it up so that cops don't encircle the body and go, I wonder who killed this guy. Let's look at the bullets. Let's look at the gun. Let's draw one of those nifty chalk outlines on the ground and so we can see how he was killed. No, they dump it in the lake and they let the fish do the rest. They let the fish handle the job of covering their tracks. Here, the U.S. is doing the same shit, except we're covering up the fact that Colombia is using our smart bombs to assassinate people and then dropping regular bombs so that people don't look at it and go, let's look at the bullet wound, let's look at the gun, let's look at the chalk outline. They dump the conventional bombs over top of the smart bombs. That's what the U.S. is doing. All right, I'm going to wrap up here. Oh, I want to, I do want to talk a little bit about Somalia in a second, but I'm going to wrap up this story with this last paragraph. When our president declares, as Mr. Biden did to the United Nations in September, I stand here today for the first time in 20 years with the U.S. not at war, unquote. Honestly, have you ever heard a funnier line than that? Joe Biden at the UN saying the U.S. isn't at war anymore. We're dropping tens of thousands of bombs a year, but we're not at war anymore. We're killing hundreds of thousands with just our economic wars alone. We're funding and arming Nazis. We're bombing people via Colombia. We're bombing people via Somalia. We're bombing people via Yemen. We are bombing all over the fucking place. But according to Joe Biden, we're not at war, folks. Did you know that? We're not at war. It's over. There is no war. Nope. U.S. not at war. When our president declares, read that, war, though. Oh, well, I didn't read the end of it, actually. When our president declares we're not at war, it's not just a pleasant falsehood. It'd be pretty to believe. It's something more corrosive. War, the killing of other people on our behalf as citizens, is the most morally consequential thing a nation can do. Yeah, and in our case, the most morally reprehensible. Try that thing that America can do. As Americans, we should take that responsibility seriously. Oh, should we? Should we? The thing that they have made all Americans forget is even happening in our name. Congress should debate it, and the Americans should as well. None of that can happen if year after year, lethal strike after lethal strike, the needs of national security are invoked to hide it from view. Oh my God, what a beautiful limited hangout. This guy's like, the U.S. military shouldn't be doing all these secret assassinations. Instead, if we were just to stop the secret assassinations, then the U.S. would be legit. We'd be legit doing the right thing over there. We'd be doing the right thing. Fucking no, we wouldn't. Fucking no, we wouldn't. You could take away every James Bond moment we have, every guy diving through a window, killing something, every drone bombing, and we'd still be murdering millions around the world, via economic sanctions. I mean, honestly, amazing. It's a good limited hangout. But it's nice to see the New York Times even admit to that little bit. Just that little bit. Okay, folks. The rest of this, as always, is at rumble.com/LeeCamp. So it's free to watch over there. Please join me over there, rumble.com/LeeCamp. If you're watching currently at rumble.com/LeeCamp, then nothing will change for you. It will remain exactly the same in 1 second. But for the rest of you, please head on over to rumble.com/LeeCamp. Free to watch the rest of this live stream